Yes. So in the early 70s, the city electricians here used aluminum wire to wire houses. They thought it was a great idea because it was much cheaper than copper, and then time showed us that it was not a good idea. What happens is there's a couple of things that happen with aluminum. One is that it has to be retorqued. So you tighten it, come back in 10 minutes, and it's a little bit loose. It's a softer material than copper, so it has to be tightened twice. That's one thing that causes problems, because if it's not tightened twice, or even 10 years later you have to retighten again, it's not a great product. So in the event that it loosens and current is going through the terminals, heat causes arcing, and that's where fires occur. So that's one of the issues. The way we rectify aluminum wiring is there's a few different ways to rectify it. The best way is to rip all the aluminum wiring out and run new copper wiring. That's the best way. But it's very costly. You have to make lots of drywall damage, which you would then have to patch and paint, so it's very expensive. Most people rarely take that option unless they're doing an entire house renovation. So the second option is fixing it at the box only with morettes and a compound that's made for aluminum. So the second issue with aluminum is oxidization. So just in the air with the oxygen surrounding it, it builds up a coating on it. And so we have to use a compound called penetrox that stops that from happening. So whenever there's aluminum contact to copper, you want to use that penetrox to avoid the breakdown. So what we do is we take the device out, redo the splice with the moret with the compound in it when we tie the copper to the aluminum, and that's an acceptable method of fixing it. But what our company does, the Electrical Connection, a better method, is we use little connectors that are a lug. So the aluminum goes in one, and then you tighten them, the copper goes in another, tighten them. So there's no physical contact between the aluminum and the copper, only the lug, which is rated for both copper and aluminum, making it a much better termination. It's expected to last much longer than the first method with just the splice caps. So that's the method that we prefer. And many times when the oxidization of the wire gets that coating, arcing occurs, or when they haven't been tightened appropriately on the device, arcing will occur. Builds up heat, and then sometimes starts a fire. Many times I'll get a call, this half of the circuit doesn't work, and then you can't even see that there's an issue until you pull the plug out and you see that it's melted and wires are burnt and it's in a rough shape, and it wasn't quite a fire, but it was close. A lot of times we'll do aluminum reclamations for insurance companies, and we'll find 2 or 3 outlets that didn't look like there was an issue at all, but once you had taken them apart, it was clearly an issue and possibly a fire in the future. So I don't like to use fear tactics, but aluminum is definitely a threat. Fires happen every year in this city because of aluminum. There's lots of houses that are wired with aluminum, and there's lots of electricians doing not such a great job in fixing the aluminum, because it does take experience and knowledge to do a good job, and guys that care about doing a good job. So that's one thing that's important when you're collecting information to fix the aluminum wiring in your house, that you hire someone that has integrity, like us at the Electrical Connection. So aluminum wires, so the small aluminum wires that we use for plugs and lights, those are the problem ones. If you open up your panel box, you'll see the big wires coming into the main disconnect might also be aluminum. They could be copper, but they might be aluminum. We still use aluminum for bigger gauge wires. As long as we use the compound and as long as we retighten, it's no problem. But for smaller gauge wires for residential houses, anything like that, we never use aluminum because it's only problematic. Early 70s. So if your house was built late 60s, early 70s, there's a very good possibility that aluminum was used in the house. If you want to know without having me to come out there and look at it, if you go to the panel, you see the wires that go into the panel, it should say on that wire AL, which would indicate it's aluminum wire. Another factor that customers might want to consider is I'm not sure if all insurance companies, but I believe that it's a little bit cheaper insurance. You save somehow on insurance when you get the aluminum in your house rectified. Phone us to come and give a free quote on what it would cost to fix it.